Not this one. Not both great games. Not what we're doing. Here we go. There it is. Midway Arcade Treasures. And there it is right there. You can kind of see it in the disc.
If you never played Marble Madness, then you probably don't know what true frustration feels like, and I mean that in the most positive way. The title is right, it's madness indeed. Released in the early 1980s in arcades and later on coming to home consoles and computers, Marble Madness was incredibly innovative for its time. The 3D art style and trackball controls separated the game from the others out there, not to mention the beautiful graphics. I mean truly, this is one of the best looking 80s games I've ever seen. The tiles, the pipes, the shading, even the way the marble moves, just exquisite looking.
Back in the day, this is how I used to play Marble Madness. This collection of a bunch of Midway arcade games. Let's take Eggmania out. By the way, if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and watch that if you've ever played this game. Now that's got like 30 plus maybe games made by Midway on that disc. The thing about it though is, I mean, Marble Madness is the first game that you get, and really nothing in terms of popularity, I don't think really compares. Joust, you know, maybe is, you know, up there, but other than that, you know.
Now I'll say again, for as great of a game this is, it's also very hard and will make you suffer, but I'll talk about that later. The music is probably the best video game music I've ever heard from the 80s. The soundtracks in the game are some of my favorite across any and all games. Every single one of them is a hit. Apparently this was the first game to use stereo sound in a Yamaha synth chip, whatever that means. I don't know, don't ask me. Point is, the music is awesome, just take a listen to some of my favorites. But of course the sound design in general is just amazing. Every level's theme feels like it belongs to that level. And with each race the difficulty increases, the frustration begins to bubble up, and the music gets more intense and eerie. But the sound effects also play a big part. Whether the marble is breaking, spinning, going down a pipe, the sound effect isn't realistic enough to take away from the synth vibe of the game, but doesn't sound fake enough like the typical beeps you'd expect from such an old game. And then there's the level design. Great visuals and tasteful music can only get you so far, but if the actual gameplay stinks, it's all over. Luckily, every level in Marble Madness is both tough and fair, but also feels unique in its own right. There's not really new mechanics that you're introduced to, but there are vastly different color schemes, hazards, and obstacles that appear in every level. Even though the basic geometry and style of the levels looks similar with the almost indoor pool-looking tiles, there are some really cool parts that define the individuality of a level. Maybe it's just me, but the color schemes really play a big part in the progression. Growing up, I was never able to go past even level 4 and could hardly ever reach it in the first place. Seeing the warm red and yellow colors, the yellow pipes that blasted sound, and hearing the intro music was extremely intimidating and honestly creepy. It gave me back then what liminal spaces images give me today. But as I said, there are frustrations. First of all, I don't know how the hell anybody played this with a trackball in the arcades. I actually tried it once, believe me, it doesn't make it easier. The marble is so hard to control, and I'm using everything I can. Thumbsticks, the D-pad, I'll tell you this, whoever designed the controls like this is a D-bag. Q*bert always confused me, because whenever I played it, I only had the option to move up, down, left, and right, but Q*bert moved diagonally, so I had to keep remembering which way went where. This is that on crack. I love the 3D element. I've made entire games myself using that diagonal angle to achieve a 3D look, but I also live in the 21st century where I can ensure something as simple as the controls don't make people rip their hair out. And I know what you're thinking. There's two types of controls, 45 degree and 90 degree. I've played both, neither helps. 45 degree gives you that Q*bert style. Down is southwest, left is northwest, everything goes diagonally, which is fine for securing the perfect 45 degree angles needed, but the momentum picks up so fast it really doesn't matter what way I go. I can't slow down. And 90 degree controls move the way you'd expect. Down is down, right is right, and so on. In order to move diagonally, you point the thumbstick diagonally, or press two directions at once. It's hard to do that properly, even if I'm using the arrow keys. You really have to get the momentum down down, otherwise you'll be flying off the stage left, right, and center. And as if that wasn't enough, there's the timer. That timer is the bane of my existence. So first you beat level 1, which they call a practice level. They won't even give you the satisfaction. You didn't beat a real level yet. And you think, pfft, I got time to spare. But that's what they want you to think. Level 2 comes and they immediately turn the dial up. This isn't your mother's Marble Madness anymore. But anyway, you beat level 2 and you think to yourself, it's a bit tricky, but I've still got time. And then comes level 3. You thought you knew tricky, you were wrong. Whether it's level 3 or higher, that timer is always going to apply pressure. It's like having the stress of a ticking time bomb added onto an already stressful task. One thing I cannot complain about though is the multiplayer. Despite the rage-inducing gameplay, 2-player is actually really fun. It's both competitive and cooperative. You can choose to play friendly, or make it a free-for-all and knock each other off the stage. When you really think about it, a game of this caliber is incredible for when it came out. Amazing art, terrific music, unique levels, tough but fair gameplay, and multiplayer. It reminds me of Cuphead. Like, it's hard, but that's the point. But let me know your thoughts on the game. Did I cover everything? I heard there's a Lost Marble Madness 2 game. I'll look into it. Good night.